Good morning, all of you. Welcome back to Laser Technologies. So, in the last class, we have discussed about a threshold condition. So, what is the importance of threshold condition? So, your threshold condition is nothing but the condition to create a population inversion. Okay, so that gives you the gain inside the cavity. Okay, so the active medium is capable of amplifying it as it has a gain curve which is responsible to create a population inversion inside the medium. Okay, hence such a medium behaves as an amplifier for only those frequencies which falls under the line width. So we already discussed about what is line width. So any system, it has a natural line width, so that we have discussed. We also will be discussed in the next session or coming session. So your cavity suffers certain losses because of reflectivity of the mirrors and the scattering and diffraction losses inside the cavity. If certain laser oscillations with certain modes to sustain inside the cavity, the losses should be compared to the gain what active medium is providing. Okay, so that means these losses has to be compensated by the gain. So the threshold condition we can define as the minimum population inversion. Okay, the minimum population inversion density is required to overcome the losses. Okay, so now whatever the losses because of your finite reflectivity, diffraction losses and scattering losses, if this population inversion density is more than the losses, then we can have a lacing action. So that condition we call a threshold condition or threshold population inversion condition. Okay, so in the last class we defined alpha 1. So where alpha 1 is a average loss per unit length due to all the losses except finite reflectivity of the mirrors. So these losses are mainly accounts scattering loss and diffraction loss. So now we consider the intensity I leaving from mirror M1 and propagating through the active medium and reaches mirror M2. So this is the intensity I. So now as our medium is amplifying, for amplification factor your alpha should be negative, then only e power alpha L is giving an amplifying beam. So where is loss? E power minus alpha L, so that we already discussed in our optical absorption classes. So the losses because of the absorption. Okay, so now here the losses we consider here is alpha 1 is because of the scattering and diffraction losses. So that is e power minus alpha 1 L. So the intensity of the reflected beam from mirror M2 will be IR2 e power minus alpha 1 minus alpha into L. So your I is the intensity is propagating through active medium, and when it is propagating through active medium you have a gain. So that gain is nothing but your minus alpha L. So your alpha is negative, so that means you will get minus of alpha 1 minus alpha into L. So that means you multiply with the alpha, it will become a positive quantity. So that gives your gain, the kind of amplification. So your I R2 e power minus your alpha 1 is a minus alpha 1, this is your loss. So this is e power minus alpha 1 and e power alpha L. So this you combine together, so this is the equation you will get. So now the intensity of the reflected beam from mirror M1. So now what happens, we are considering one round trip. Okay, the photon is propagating through active medium and reflected from the mirror M2 and again reflected from the mirror M1. This you count as a one round trip. So for one round trip, your intensity changes as your I into a reflection from mirror M1 and reflection from these are the reflection coefficients R2 and e power. So now it is propagating through your active medium twice, or from this length L it is traveling a 2L length. So now this is whole divided with the 2 factor. And the same thing, because it's traveling to a round trip, that means traveling within a cavity 2 times. So this 2 factor you will get. Okay, so now the intensity will be at this position you measure after one round trip, that is I R1 R2 e power minus 2 alpha 1 minus alpha into L. So your laser to oscillate. Okay, that means your laser to oscillate, that means you have a lasing action to come. This whole factor should be greater than or equals to 1. Okay, so now that means your gain has to dominate over the losses. These are the losses and these are the losses. These losses has to be overcome. That means your gain has to be compensate the losses and also having a either equals to or greater than 1. So this factor greater than or equals to 1, then only you have a lacing. So now the equal sign for the threshold condition for a population inversion. Okay, so the equality symbol, if you take this is equal to 1, that means this is the time where your losses equals to the gain. So whatever you are gaining, you are losing. That is balancing. That condition is a threshold condition. Now to have a lacing action, it has to be reach this condition, and to get the, see, if you reach this condition, whatever you have photons inside the cavity, after round trip the same number of photons will be there after one round trip because of the losses. So eventually you end up with the same intensity. To have your lacing action come out of from your cavity, you need to have this condition. It has to above the threshold condition. That means it has to be greater than 1. Then you above the threshold condition you will have a. Okay, so now your R1 R2 e power minus 2 alpha 1 minus alpha into L is greater than or equals to 1. To have a lacing action, this factor has to be greater than 1. That means your all losses will be overcome with the gain. So now your round trip gain is greater than the round trip loss. So this results increasing in intensity inside the laser cavity. Okay, so if we achieve this condition, your intensity inside the cavity is higher than before the one round trip. So how far you can increase the intensity inside the cavity? Until it reaches the saturation effects. So that means you cannot excite or you cannot populate the excited state infinitely. Each excited state having a cross sections. That means they can accommodate few number of or some number of the excited atoms. So that means each state has a population count. So above that they cannot take the population. Okay, that is called a saturation. Okay, until the saturation, this intensity will increases inside the laser cavity. Okay, so now I am sending your R1 and R2 on the right hand side. We will get e power minus 2 alpha 1 minus alpha into L greater than or equals to 1 by R1 R2. Okay, so now I am sending this I'm taking a log on ln on both sides. You will get minus 2 alpha 1 minus alpha into L is greater than or equals to minus ln r1 r2. Alpha 1 minus alpha is greater than or equals to 1 by 2L ln r1 r2. So now eventually is minus alpha is greater than alpha 1 minus 1 by 2L r1 r2. This is our gain condition. Minus alpha is nothing but your gain condition. So that is your gain factor, which is much more greater, should be greater than or equals to, these are all losses. So this is your threshold condition. Your minus alpha threshold is equals to alpha 1 minus 1 by 2L ln r1 r2. So we can also rewrite this equation into other way. So your alpha we already know. You can refer to lecture 5. Your alpha is nothing but beta h cross omega n naught by c n1 minus n2 g of omega. So this is we derived from the Einstein coefficients. So you can refer to lecture number 5. So if you have degenerate states, as you account your degenerate states, so then this degenerate factor will come into the picture. So this is g2 by g1. So this factor will come into the picture. So this is when you consider the degeneracy. So now you substitute your alpha. So that is nothing but minus b h cross omega n naught by c g of omega n2 n1 g2 by g1 minus n2, which is greater than alpha 1. So which is greater than alpha 1 minus 1 by 2L ln r1 r2. So this minus I am absorbing into this equation. So that becomes b h cross omega n naught by c g of omega n2 minus, so this is a minus n2 becomes plus n2, and this is minus n1 g2 by g1, which is greater than alpha 1 minus 1 by 2L ln r1 by r2. Okay, so this is your condition. If no degeneracy associated with the states, so you can remove g2 by g1 if there is no degeneracy of the states. So your threshold condition will be modified as b h cross omega n naught by c g of omega n2 minus n1 greater than alpha 1 minus 1 by 12 ln r1 r2. And we know that from your Einstein coefficients, your b21 is nothing but b can be written in terms of your a21. So where a21 is nothing but your rate of your spontaneous emission, that is nothing but 1 over tau sp. Okay, that is the lifetime of the state of excited state. So now you substitute your b. So I am sending all this factor to right hand side. So I will get this c by h cross omega n naught b g of omega. So that is your n2 minus n1. Eventually I am measuring the population inversion. So your population inversion is greater than alpha 1 minus 1 by 12 ln r1 r2. So now you substitute b value here. From this your b becomes pi square c cube a21 divided by h cross omega cube n naught cube. That is your b. That is you substitute here pi square c cube g of omega. Your a21 is nothing but 1 over tau sp. So that 1 over tau sp goes to numerator. That becomes tau sp on the numerator. So then your h cross gets cancelled. One of the omega will cancel in the omega cube, and one of the n naught will be cancelled. That gives you omega square n naught square tau sp. In c gets cancelled in this case, c square will be remain. So now you have pi square c square g of omega. So this is your final threshold condition to having a population inversion. So your n2 minus n1 should be greater than this whole term on the right hand side. So then only you have a real lacing. Now whatever we are discussing about these factors, now this is inside the cavity. So now we consider all the losses inside the cavity, and we also consider your tau sp, so that means it's energy state dependent, and also g of omega, it's a line shape function. Okay, so now we can see separately. So your cavity loss must be small to get this higher, so that means you can compensate with all these factors. You can see which are playing a more role, so that to get your population inversion is higher, you have three factors. One is the losses from the cavity, and the second thing your tau sp, and third one is your g of omega. These three plays a major role to having a population inversion in the real practical laser systems. So one thing, you have to minimize your cavity losses as much as possible, and you can see the population when you have a time your tau sp is small, the population inversion will be small, right? This is almost directly proportional. Your tau sp is small, your population inversion is small. That means you require to have a highly pumped. And assume now your tau sp is large, your lifetime is large, that is called what we have metastable states or metastable lifetimes. So when your tau sp is large, your population is large, so then you can easily achieve the population inversion condition. Now your g of omega also dependent. So your g of omega will decide you what are the frequencies to oscillate inside the laser cavity. Okay, so obtaining laser action at longer wavelengths is easier than the smaller wavelength, because your g of omega, we know that it is inversely proportional to delta omega, that is full width of maximum of your line shape function. Okay, so now this is inversely proportional to delta of omega, so that means your n2 minus n1 is much greater than to the delta omega. That means your longer wavelengths is easy to having a lasing action, that means create a population inversion compared to the smaller wavelengths within the line shape function. So your line shape function will decide you what are the frequencies can be oscillated inside the cavity. This is a real lasing condition. If there is no degeneracy associated with the states, if there is a degeneracy associated with the states, you have to incorporate your G1 and G2 factors. Okay, so previously we have discussed about the population inversion condition. That time we have considered the losses from the cavity. Okay, now in this case we have considered all the losses. So this practically serve the purpose of having a population inversion condition to have a real laser. So this line shape function plays a major role to create your population inversion condition. So we will discuss your line shape function can be broadened. Okay, there are the different mechanisms can happen in a system that creates a broadening. So now we discuss what are the broadening mechanisms. Okay, so these are line broadening mechanisms, so which determines the number of modes which are going to oscillate inside the cavity. Okay, so we already discussed what is the line shape function in our previous classes. So your g of omega is a line shape function which having a certain width. So it affects operational characteristics of laser such as threshold population inversion. That's what we have seen in the threshold condition. So now these broadening mechanisms are broadly classified into homogeneous broadening and inhomogeneous broadening. So there bonding can happen homogeneously across your system, or it will be differently for the different, in the part of the system can react differently, and other part and different domains will having different responses. That you call inhomogeneous bonding. In the homogeneous bonding, again you have two categories. So that is natural bonding, and the second one is collision bonding. So this bonding of your line widths, mainly whatever we see g of omega, so this line shape function will be modified because of these bondings. So in the inhomogeneous bondings, you have again two types depending upon the system. You have a Doppler bonding, and there will be one more bonding mechanism will be there, that we will come to later. So now this homogeneous bonding will be happen for each atom identically. So that means they all having a certain central frequency which is oscillating at, and certain distribution. So that is almost common for all the atoms. So that means all the atoms will respond to this bonding in a similar way. So this bonding happens to each atom similar way. So that kind of a bonding you call homogeneous bonding. So in inhomogeneous bonding, you have Doppler bonding and crystal field bonding. So in the Doppler bonding is because of the movement of the atoms. So we will see how the phase distortion will happen. So this phase distortion will result in your coherence time, reducing the coherence time. So that resulting in your broadening of your line widths. Okay. So the inhomogeneous bonding is because of all the atoms having a different responses. So different group of atoms exhibit different frequency responses. That is because of each atom interacts with other atoms, or in the Doppler bonding, they are not all the atoms collide in the same fashion. Okay, so this collision process in the Doppler bonding will be a random. Okay, so in that case, not all the atoms will give the same kind of response. Okay, so that way you will get inhomogeneous bonding. So in the crystal, what happens? The lattice vibrations. So you already studied in the solid state physics or condensed matter physics. You have a phonons. So your phonons is nothing but your crystal vibrations. So these vibrations creates a variable field. So variable crystal field. So that means different atoms feels a different field. When they feel different fields, they respond at different frequencies. So that gives you, so different atoms give a different response. Okay, so that way this will give you inhomogeneous bonding. Okay, so if you don't have any other questions, so we can end the class now. Thank you.